Hi, everyone, and welcome to InvenTank. I'm Lisa Lloyd, and we are streaming to you live today on LinkedIn and Facebook. So drop a hi and let me know where you're joining me from. Where in the world are you? It also lets me know that you can hear me okay. Joining me as my guest host today is Nami Khadem, inventor of Smart Swab, which is a device for removing that nasty earwax that we all have. Don't like to ever talk about. You may have seen it on TV or in stores. I certainly have, as well as a novel ergonomic solution for crutches. It's really cool. I think that's a business that really needs to be given a huge facelift and innovation. You can check out all of Nami's products today on ndproducts.com, and I'll share that with you in a moment. We'll also open things up for your questions and getting you the answers to whatever those burning innovation questions are that are standing in the way of your success today. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout our show today. We'll take them in the order in which they are received. But before we do all of that, first, Nami, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate you taking, and it was last minute too, so I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
I know you're a busy man. You've achieved an amazing level of success, the kind that most inventors aspire to have. And I know that comes with lots of challenges along the way. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story. And I thought that I'd kick things off by just quickly sharing. I think I'll just throw up the share here really quick so everybody can see what we're talking about with your products. We've got ndproducts.com, as I mentioned before, folks. So this is Nami's new ergonomic handle for crutches. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And the Smart Swab, come on, y'all. You had to have seen that. Let me know in the chat if you've seen it. Smart Swab. It's like a corkscrew for your ear, which I have to confess to you, Nami, the first time I ever saw that, I was a little afraid of it. Can't be the first time you've heard of that, right?
Well, that's a challenge I had in the beginning, actually, because the way it looked like, make people think twice. But yeah, when something is new and never been out there before, you can't expect that kind of hesitation from people because it's new and they don't have experience with it. So I try to kind of teach them the kind of material is used and how soft it is by some videos and some teaching. So they kind of believe that this is a very soft material and it's not gonna hurt. As a matter of fact, the whole purpose of inventing this was to create something that does not hurt your ear while you're cleaning your ear.
Well, that brings up a good point. So what's your background?
So I'm a designer, and it's interesting that many years ago I started with interior design, which has nothing to do with the product design, but that sense, that artistic sense made me think about product design, and I started educating myself about that, and quickly I learned that this is where I want to be. And I keep asking questions about why the products are like this, why we have a gap in the market on this field or that field. And many years ago, I went to doctor, and doctor told me that don't clean your ears with the cotton swab. And I was like, oh, interesting, because
isn't that the point?
Imagine you're sitting at home and asking your loved one, get you an ear cleaner. Guess what they bring to you? A Q-tip.
Sure. Of course. I just used two this morning, so I know exactly what. And I was thinking of you as I was cleaning my ears, anticipating.
So what I did differently was, instead of just going home, I went to shop around for ear cleaner that is not Q-tip. And then I look at a Q-tip package that says, do not put it in your ear. And the question got bigger and bigger, and I was like, so what's going on here? Then I learned that since 1921, invention of the Q-tip, they haven't been working on this field, and there is something out there that is safe for ear cleaning. Except, of course, you can go to doctor and have the doctor flush your ear, which is very disgusting and uncomfortable process.
Yeah.
And we can't afford to go doctor for that like every week, right? So, so I thought there could be a better way of doing this, and um, so I started working on it, and I tried to focus on the fact that this is like a closed space. And one of the reason why they say don't use Q-tip is, or your finger or your napkin or whatever it is that you put in your ear. The reason why they say don't do it, because whatever you put in your ear, it kind of push the earwax further down, and after a while, they accumulate and uh, block your hearing and block your ear canal. So it was a challenge to find what kind of technology will help to not to do this and just kind of exfoliate it out instead of pushing it in. So,
So,
um,
Nami, I'm gonna just share this with you really quick. Barbara just shared. I have it. It works. So there you
thank
go.
you,
Thank you,
Barbara.
Barbara, for sharing. I,
It,
so when I saw the commercial, it changed. When I first saw the ad, I thought, oh God, there's no way. That looks like a contraption. It's terrifying. So I can imagine the challenges that you had in overcoming. But when I watched the commercial and it actually broke down and someone touched it and showed how soft it was, and then
right,
they said how soft it was, like, okay, that's something that I can get into. So it made more
right.
sense. But I'm surprised you didn't even have a background in that's not ophthalmology. That's your eyes. What is a hearing person?
Ear,
I'm
nose,
showing
and
my,
throat.
yeah, exactly, an ENT. I'm surprised with the design
So,
background. That's the direction you went. Um,
mm,
what were some of the biggest obstacles that you found along the way to bringing it to market beyond that point of it educating the consumer on the novelty of how soft it is and everything?
I guess the biggest one was the challenge I had with myself. Uh, and that's what I say to other novice inventor who just want to become inventor. I, I was thinking that, okay, I think this is a solution, but, am I an inventor officially or not?
Right.
So um, I, I thought the best way of doing it is to go through the process of patenting and all that to make sure nobody else has thought about this or figured this out before me. And that's what I did. And through the course of time, I learned this is totally new. And it took, of course, years, how time consuming is to get a patent. And after a few years, when the patent was finalized, I get more confident that this is absolutely new and never done before.
Wow.
And after that, I was trying to find a company that can help me with the manufacturing, marketing, and all those stuff that you need to take it from the ideation to manufacturing and marketing.
It's
Uh,
tough.
right,
Mhm.
exactly. Because these processes are not easy. Not everybody can go through all this and take care of all that single-handedly. It really take a team to do that.
So for those of
And
you who are watching us now, I've got up on the screen here. I saw someone ask they missed when I showed it earlier. So I popped it back up for us. Nami, can you just walk us through how this works? I'd love to show you all the video. There's legal issues that we can't do that right now, but we don't need a video. Well, we've got the man himself to tell us about this product. So how does this work? I see that you have a lot of pieces here that attach to it.
yes, those are 16 tips that are replaceable. Basically, um, similar to Gillette razors that you have a permanent handle and replaceable, blade. Here you have a permanent ergonomic handle and replaceable tips. This kind of keep it sanitary, and you don't have to keep the same tip that you used already. And keep it around. You can just simply dispose it and use a new one. So how it works is that you can snap off the tip off of the handle after use and put a new tip on. It locks in, and there is an arrow on the handle that shows you the direction where you need to twist this. So
Mm-hmm.
you twist the handle, and of course the tip will twist, and the direction is the clockwise twist. So when you twist it clockwise, this spiral soft tip exfoliate the debris and earwax or whatever is in your ear outward instead of pushing it in.
It's brilliant.
And also, the other thing about this design is prevent the injuries because I saw a lot of videos that where the like kids were playing around with the Q-tips, and once I saw one of them just put it in the ear and dancing around. That's
Yeah.
very dangerous, right? Very,
Yeah.
very dangerous. So very small, poke to the eardrum in the back of your ear. Um, you can lose your hearing for good.
And it
So
hurts.
yeah, and for that reason, I designed this in a conical shape. So the bottom of it is big enough to prevent the user from going too far into the ear. So this is a blind process. I looked at it that way, that this is a blind process. You don't see what you're doing in there. So I designed it in a way that it stops before it gets to the back of your ear where the eardrum is. So that could prevent the injury.
Right. What were you ever worried in the beginning because that corkscrew, the idea, getting people to change their buying habits and their behavior is the hardest part. And I teach this all the time that it's 5 to 6 times more expensive for a brand to get a new customer than it is to get existing customers to buy more products. Because getting someone to switch from what they currently use to something new is that expensive. It's that learning curve that you have to help the consumer overcome. So how did you find navigating that? Because I know that we have inventors, maybe they're listening today, or maybe they're going to listen in the future, but I know that we have people in our audience overall that struggle with effectively getting consumers to buy into something that's truly novel and a new way of approaching something.
Right. Well, this has to deal with your basically your logic behind this idea and how really it going to justify the price difference and changing the habit. Um, so if you tell them, all right, Q-tip, you shouldn't use it, and then washing the ear and all that is very uncomfortable process. It's messy and all that, and nobody really like to do it.
Mhm.
So what is left? What you gonna do? And then you're gonna bring the solution. So you have to bring the problem first, and then provide the solution.
Yeah.
When they see the difference, and it make them think, okay, do I have a better option? Or is this new product really solve my problem or not? Maybe I should try it at least once to see what happens. So, and alongside of that, when you have a good, solid reasoning for what you are offering, um, marketing really play a big factor. So,
Mhm.
um, at some point, I was lucky enough to have this marketing company that start doing the marketing and commercial and show people what kind of difference it makes, how it works, and put it out there in front of people's eyes so they could familiarize themselves to what it is and how it works. And these two together basically was main factor. And of course, uh, time is another factor. It takes time for people to understand something.
Right. And that's the hard one for, I think, anybody in terms of it's beyond patience because it's so nerve wracking. It actually requires a stamina that's bigger than patience, like anything. But inventors don't understand that because it's not like a typical entrepreneur who understands that starting a business, you need runway and time and margin for error because there's going to be problems that come up. Inventors don't necessarily always understand that. So when you say marketing, you went the route of direct response and you used that path to actually educate the consumer. And in this case, if I understand it right, you spin it. It's not battery operated, right? You actually twist it yourself. Uh-oh, do we freeze up for a second? Well, hopefully, I know our connection wasn't super good, but hopefully your connection will come back in a second. Folks, let me know in the comments if you can still hear me okay. I know there's a bit of delay there. But the reason that I was asking the question is because the direct response, and we've talked about this before, direct response is such a powerful way to educate the consumer to do exactly what you were talking about, where you can, I might need to text you, Nami, to find out if you can hear me okay still. There you are.
Okay, you're back on.
Okay, good. They said they could hear me.
Could you repeat your question?
Yes, absolutely. So what I was saying is direct response is a terrific platform for inventions that fit the criteria for what works on direct response. But the reason I think it's such a great platform, if you do invent something for that space, is because they do that job of educating the consumer on the problem and the solution, like you were just talking about. And you're kind of chopping, you're coming in and out. I don't know if you can hear me okay, Nami. It seems like the connection might be not really good on that end. But the question is direct response something that you would recommend to other inventors if they're considering licensing their invention? All right, let me ask him. All right, folks, you told me you can hear me, and that's great. And you can't hear him, so I'm just going to ask him if he can plug in.
I guess we have a little internet connection problem.
Yeah, they're saying that they can hear me, they just can't hear you. So if there's a way that you can plug in your Wi-Fi so that it's not wireless, that'll probably make the difference.
So I'm not sure if I heard the whole thing, but the part that I got.
Can you plug in your Wi-Fi?
Right. Okay. About this, you're right.
Hang in there with us, folks. We'll get it fixed.
Actually, I don't have any problem. Yes.
Do you have an Ethernet plugged in, or are you just doing it on Wi-Fi?
Can you hear me?
I can now, yes. Do you have an Ethernet, or are you on Wi-Fi?
Okay, great.
Nami? Sorry, folks. Just bear with us with technical difficulties. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Wendy. I guess we could do that, but I'm afraid he's probably going to go out and come back in. So we'll give it a moment. So let me go back and take a look at your questions while we're here. No reason we can't answer, or at least from my perspective. I hope that answers your question, Dave, about your 220 volts. This is not battery operated. So this is something that you just manually twist and it works like a corkscrew and pulls it out. And what's really amazing that blew my mind, because like I said, when I first saw it, I thought, oh my God, there's no way, is how soft that rubber is and how gross all the wax is. If you see the commercial, how gross that is. I just can't play it for legal reasons. Here we go. He's back. Much better connection.
If it was my internet or yours, I don't know.
It was yours because they said they could still hear me. It was just you that went out.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We've got some other questions coming in. Just quickly, if you could answer what advice you would give to someone who is considering licensing to the direct response business to license their product.
Sure. The very first thing is to just make sure your invention falls into the field of that kind of marketing, because not every invention is suitable for that. You're definitely going to be wasting your time if you have, I don't know, let's say a car part or something that is not very widely bought by people, but average people. If you have something like that, it's more specific and it applies to certain kind of people. That is definitely not the right one for direct response. What they want is something that is applicable to everyone. For example, if it is ear cleaner, in my case, everybody's got 2 ears, right? So
Every household can use this. Yes,
right.
at least one.
Right. And so that's what they're looking for, basically. And
Right.
you go around with the invention that doesn't apply, you basically wasting your time for that particular marketing. So you have to change your direction to different kind of marketing.
So making sure you have a good fit for it.
Exactly.
John is asking, how long did it take for you to go from your initial idea to your first royalty payment? What was that process like for you? It's a good
Well,
question.
this is a good question, actually, because that tells you that how difficult this process is.
That's right.
I could say about 12 years, maybe.
Wow, that's a
Uh,
long investment.
right. It took a long time, but I don't say everybody gonna be like that. I was like that because everybody is different. I was
Sure.
like that because, as I said in the beginning, when I started that, I was a designer. I wasn't an inventor, and I wasn't sure who can be an inventor, right? And that kind of didn't allow me to move fast enough, right? So if you believe there's something that you have and it has to be out there and it's totally new and you're 100% sure that it has to be a product out there, you probably can move faster than that, but since I didn't know, I had no experience back in the time at all. I just waited for patent to get issued, and I didn't have a good guide to really tell me, okay, this is what you have to do to move forward. So I was just running my own life, and then had this patent going on, and it took like 3 years to just get that. And then I was looking at the basically wrong route, because I thought that I have to manufacture it, I have to sell it, I have to do all that stuff. And then when I realized how difficult is that and how expensive it is, I was like, would I ever gonna be able to make that happen?
Mhm.
That's why it took so long for me. And it doesn't have to happen like that for everyone. And I guess this kind of shows that you have, and the direction that mentors can give could be very helpful to kind of expedite the process.
Right. So you s- navigated that, and now you're working on this new product, the Ergo
Yes.
grips for the
Very good.
crutches.
Great.
Yep.
Exactly right. Yes.
What will you be doing differently based on what you learned from the first one? What will you be doing differently with this product?
For this one thing, um, that I did similar actually was that making sure it is something that can solve a problem. But what I did differently is that this time I, decide how to do it. So I decided to do it myself this time because I was able to. I had knowledge, I had connection, I had network, and everything. So it was very different from back in the
And
time.
money now, right? And you have some money to invest based on the success of your first product. That certainly helps.
It does. It definitely does help. However, your experience helped to do it with the less amount of money that
Yeah,
normally take.
right.
So,
Exactly. Because it's not going to cost you all those mistakes.
right. For example, I learned how to do the prototype, and right now I do my own prototype. For example, what you see here is a 3D printer right next to me. So I do my own prototype with my own 3D printers,
There's
and
mine.
yep. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You
You
and me,
see?
man.
Yeah, when you get in the business, then you have it all set up.
And you can go through all those iterations, which is one of the things
Exactly.
that we learn from experience, that no invention is done the first time or even the second or third or fourth time. I've been working on a mop for 2 years, iterating on it, getting it just right. So to your point, I understand.
Right.
What other things will you do differently with the new product based on what you learned from your past experience?
So the other thing is that the packaging, for example. I think packaging is important, and nobody talk about it because they think it's just the product. It has to be.
Uh-oh.
Now, what I do is, alongside of development of the product, I do the develop the packaging as well. So once I'm ready to, at the point that I can have it manufactured, then I have everything together ready. So I'm not gonna hold up this whole ready product for the long and lengthy packaging development. And it's very important because that's the first thing people see. So it has to be something nice and representable. And I also work on the direction and manual and everything that needs to be in there to make it a complete product, complete packaged product. I work on all those at the same time. And it not only saves time, also it helps to do that trial error at the same time because you know sometimes you create the manual and then you give it to someone and it says, I didn't get this point. How do I do this? And I'm like, well, I said that here, but apparently it wasn't clear enough.
There.
So that's a good
Right.
thing. Yeah. So
That's right.
yeah, so that's a good point. You learn something right there. So you have to go back to the drawing board and redo it again in a way that everybody can connect to it. So all this together can be moved forward at the same time.
Well, the questions are flying in here real quick. Let's answer John's question. Where are you located?
I'm in Washington D.C. area, Northern Virginia, Washington D.C. basically area, right on the border of Northern Virginia and D.C.
John is very active in the Inventor community and a wonderful connection. John, thank you so much for joining us today, by the way. Kimberly's asking, I can't wait to hear more about the issues and struggles that you experienced trying to get it to market. And I know that we could spend an entire hour talking about, but if you could give me the top 3 biggest mistakes maybe that you feel like you made that you would not make again, or what you learned from those mistakes. Let's try that quickly, if you can.
Sure.
We're just going to have you back again, I can tell.
Well, getting into entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride, as you know. And there's so much happening. Like if I wanted to tell you all this happening, like gonna take a long time. But
Right.
just let's say just few of them, as far as the mistakes. I believe one of the things I haven't heard much about is how you feel. You know, everybody just talk about material, but how you feel is very important. Um, exactly. And, we have these ups and downs and this and that. For example, I was in Hong Kong and I was in a trade show, and there was these Chinese people there were trying to sell me my own product.
Wow.
And yeah, and you're gonna be shocked. You're like, oh, I thought I did this and I have a patent for this, and now you guys are manufacturing it, and now I see where all this counterfeit come from,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna get shocked. But there are so many things that you're gonna face that you have to kind of take a step back and think more about it and see how you're going to just pursue with all this. Even to these days, I'm fighting against counterfeits. Most of my time is taken by those, and those are one of those things that people don't think about in the beginning because that kind of separate the inventorship and entrepreneurship. If you're an entrepreneur, you're also a businessman, so you're going to get involved with things that are a little bit different from inventorship. And everybody
Right.
say, oh, I don't like that part, I just want to be inventor. And and
Which is fine if you license and your hands off, but if you're
yeah,
going to build it and venture, there's definitely a lot more work involved in that, I'm sure.
Right, exactly. And the one of the things that I probably wouldn't do is to wait too long. At some point you have to get up and move. And as you go out, that doesn't mean you're going to get exactly what you want right then, but it's going to open a door to new possibilities. For example, that great moment when after a long time I found four DRTV company fighting over my invention uh, for the contract. It didn't happen on the computer or here and there. I went there. I was there personally, although I did have a representative that was dealing with these companies. But I went there, and I realized if I wasn't there, nobody could represent my product as good as I would.
Mm.
So I guess a lot of that success had to deal with me going all the way to Las Vegas to the show and spending 3 days there and doing so many presentations and talking to so many people, and not only help that the person that representing me, also helping to put everything, all the values that I created out there in front of him. And I guess that was a very good move that I made, because he didn't want me to go there. I went there voluntarily. So
He
yeah,
who he who didn't want you to go there?
the person who was representing my invention there.
Oh, okay,
So
that you
he
licensed
had
to?
like, yeah, he had like dozen of those inventions that
Mhm,
representing to these companies,
sure.
and he said, it's not important if you come or not. I'll take care of it. But when I went there, things was different. They would see the inventor, they could ask me about everything they needed, and I would tell them everything they needed right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I I think that I've been on both sides of the fence. I've worked on both sides of the desk, so to speak. So I've been an inventor who's licensed, but I've also been the person that you pitched to license when I was VP of Biz Dev at Scunsi. And there are some people that are more suitable for doing that than there are others. And the companies that we license to just put us all into a box and say, oh, well, you don't know how to represent your product better than me. I'm a big marketing company. I don't need you there. But there are certainly some inventors who have a propensity and an aptitude for sales or marketing or schmoozing, or whatever that thing, networking, just being friendly, that sort of thing. And it's a shame that companies don't take better advantage of those skills. I have one product, Soft Claws, that I licensed to Goody, and almost a year into it, I said, why is it still not in the stores? And they said, we're still trying to figure out how to make it. And I thought, why didn't you ask me?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
PTG, here are the tolerances. And they just assumed I didn't know how to make it. So they were still figuring it out, which is just ridiculous. But learning how
And
to
you can
present
help.
yourself to those companies. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can help with that as well. For example, when I was explaining the product to them at the time they were trying to manufacture it, I gave them a choice. I told them, listen, this is my preferred way of making it with this kind of material, but it may not be easy. It may not be cost efficient for you all. So if that happened, I don't want you to hit the wall and put that aside. Here is another option. This is another material that you can do, and that helped them. As a matter of fact, they end up with the second material, which is the product now.
oh, that's great. And that you kickstarted for them.
Yeah.
So Wendy's asking if we can talk more about what's suitable for direct response. And I'll answer that very quickly just by saying, so that we can move forward with all the questions that we've got going here, because I'm having so much fun. Wendy, it depends on the company that you're working with, the category that they're working with. Household is always big, pet products are always big, but there are some that just focus on long form versus short form. So if it's a $2,000 piece of equipment, Guthrie Rinker is going to be more interested in doing an infomercial that's a full 30-minute program, or it's actually 28 and some or whatever, versus short version. So it's different. So the best advice I can give you is get into either Facebook or LinkedIn groups in particular, where they are already focused on those. Like, for example, there's one as seen on TV just for fitness products. And if you connect with them, you can find out what it is that they're looking for. If you intend to invent for that category, it's a brilliant way to cut your learning curve and your costs associated with that. So get ahead of it by looking at the company you think you'd want to work with. But as a general rule, small, $50, $60 or less, they can break it up into payments. Sometimes they can go up to 70. It has to be able to ship. It has to be something that is has mass appeal, not just a niche, although there are some direct response companies that focus on, say, Christmas items or toys, which are technically a niche as well. So there's no easy way to answer the question, but if you take a look at the companies, they'll tell you what it is that they're looking for. And you can just Google direct response or DRTV companies and you'll get a list. So you can go to their website and see what they sell. That'll show you who to work with. If that doesn't answer your question, you want to answer something more specific. And I know we've spoken before, but you're welcome to book a call with me. In fact, I'll throw that up really quick at the bottom. You can always go to my website, and this is good for anybody. If you want to join me on a call, you can book a 25-minute free consultation with me, and I'll get your questions answered if we can't answer them here today. Okay, John, again, what would you do now that... Well, we were kind of asking this question already, right? What would you do differently? Was there anything else that you wanted to add to that we didn't have time for earlier?
Product development, yes. One thing I don't think I've done enough is to put that bad prototype or the very first one you make you don't like and you feel like this is not good.
Yeah.
You still have to show it to people, unless you really can come up with a nice one like the one I can do with my 3D printer, then you're fine. But whatever it is that you're doing, you want to connect with people, and you can't just, of course, if you just put it on the table, nobody knows what it is, but there's a way to talk to people. You say, if you had this problem, for example, about my ergo grip, right? I do a lot of research before I want to finalize an invention. Like on ergo grip, I find out 85% of the people using crutches for any leg kind of problem, they come up with the arm and hand problem because of the crutches and because of that handle. And so I could have gone out like early on and talked to these people and tell them, what would you like differently, and I spent a lot of time figuring it out myself. I was walking with the crutches day and night and to figure things out. You could just find these people. Like I see a lot of them. Like if you pay attention, you see people walking with crutches time to time. And you can go to them and ask them, tell them, what are your pains? What are your discomfort? Would you try this for me and tell me if it is any better? Right. And
Yes.
that could cut
Yes.
this whole thing short.
So true. I mean, I think that inventors spend more time on the back end trying to get it licensed when that's their plan versus on the front end inventing something that is an easy buying decision later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interviewing prospective customers, defining I always say fall in love with the problem, not with the solution, so that you're not afraid to change it and go through that iterative process necessary. I don't care what the solution is, as long as it's the best possible one for the job that it has to do, right?
Right, exactly.
I love your advice to get out there and ask people and really flesh out that problem and make sure that you're solving it in a dramatically better way. Great.
I have one more thing, just to make sure it's all clear.
Yeah.
You're gonna see people that they may trash it right off the bat. They may say, "Oh, I don't care about this. Like, what is this? I'm not gonna put that in my ear." Right?
Yeah.
That shouldn't turn you off. You have to continue doing that with so many people. And
when is it enough people though, Nami? Like when do you know if people are telling you it's not a good idea, when do you know that it's time to listen to those people who say it's not a good idea?
I think, if you have like at least 15, 20 people you talk to, but it depends how you talk to them, because again, if you give them something new and you ask them to be a tester, they may like it or not. But if you talk to them and tell them, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, I'm trying to help people with a better and safer way to clean ears, then they will see the positive point about what you're doing, and
Right.
they can I have your help, or giving me your opinion. It's going to help a lot. Then they're going to look at it differently. They try to be helpful.
Well, and to answer John's question that, I know you weren't quite at 10 million, but with many millions in sales, nearly $10 million in sales, obviously you fleshed out a good idea. What did you do on the front end that made you so confident to keep going for 12 years? Because that's a big commitment. What data set did you have inside of you that made you persist through all of that?
I kept questioning myself the same question that made me started this. I said, okay, if I don't want to flush my ear with all those water and discussing things around me, because when you do that, you put your head on the pillow and things come out. It's really not something you want to do all the time. And then the Q-tip is you shouldn't put it in your ear, says that on the box. So, so what people are supposed to be doing here? So I kept asking the same question. I kept shopping for a solution. And the more I saw there is a gap in the market, the more serious I got about accomplishing this journey. I was like, okay, if I paid so close attention to this matter and nobody else did, maybe I'm the one who need to solve this problem.
That's awesome. And how to solve it then became the challenge. What took you longer, researching the market or coming up with the invention or getting it licensed? What was the longest delay?
Uh, Basically, development definitely took some time because, like I said, it wasn't something that I had done before then, and so
Mhm.
I wasn't very prepared. So it took a long time. It could have been much shorter than that. And research also took some time because I had day job and family, so I couldn't just keep researching anytime I wanted. And but the time between those and having it licensed, um, it is something that I think it's different for people. Like sometimes I think you have to be lucky to find the right person that is the right connection in the right network that is able to talk to the CEO of such and such company face to face, or pick up the call and that CEO will answer that call.
And
So
so you're kind of answering Wendy's question now, which is how did you identify the company you licensed to? Did they find you or did you find them?
it was a little bit of both, actually. Somebody find me on, I think that was LinkedIn, actually. Somebody found me there, and they was like, "This is interesting. Would you like to license this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm open to any opportunity." And then she introduced me to somebody else who was in that field, and then he helped me with getting connected to those companies. That's how it started.
And you were already making and selling the product at the time.
Yes, I'm doing it myself right now. So I'm all
Before you
in.
licensed it, you were already doing that, right? You
Yeah,
were in
but
production.
at the time that I licensed it, I did not have it manufactured. So
Okay.
so that licensing was very, very helpful to get it out there, get the word out, because there was no way I could do it by myself, like getting the word out in such a vast, online and social media here and there. Um, you could put a good team together and do it yourself, but again, these companies know how to do it better than
Like a
we do.
machine. Yeah, they
Right,
have it figured out.
right.
So you weren't in production, but you were promoting it on LinkedIn. How did they find out about your product if it didn't even exist yet to be able to approach you in the first place? I know our listeners have to be dying to know that.
Yeah, what you can do is to have some sort of good photos and good descriptions, something nice and appealing about what you have.
Mhm.
Maybe with a better, good-looking prototype and photos, and put it out there. And let everybody knows that you have this invention and you're looking for opportunity to partner up with people who can help with the manufacturing and marketing. I
So
think
did you have a prototype at that point? Did you have
yes,
photos?
I did have prototype photos and a lots of material because I do a lot of research before I basically pull the trigger and go after manufacturing and marketing.
Right on. So Wendy is asking here, I thought that if you're going for a licensing agreement, they do all the manufacturing, packaging, directions, etc. And so I think she might be just confused between why you're doing it now versus because we're
Yeah,
talking about the fact that you licensed it. So
sure.
you've taken it back and now you're doing that yourself, correct?
Right. So yes, to answer this question, yes, at that time, everything like from manufacturing to marketing was done with through the licensing company, and that's why I'm saying that was a good start. It was helping. Um, but now I took it back because I wasn't very happy uh, for the way they were managing my brand. And I took everything back, my patent, my all my IP rights, and I'm doing the manufacturing, marketing, and everything by myself now.
Did you have to start all over and find a new factory?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult, but it is part of the process. If you want, like, if you have a bigger goal, you have to take on a bigger challenge.
Mm-hmm. So Carol would like to know, hi, Carol, so glad you're with us today. What process steps do you use now to bring your idea to market? So if you're not going to use a license or direct response company, what will you do next for that marketing?
So I would go through the same basics to put it out there first. So if you don't put it out there, people don't know such thing exists. And that's the thing about invention. And what I've seen from lots of inventors, call me and ask me about, suggestion and all that. When I ask them, what is your invention? They go like, should I say that? I'm like, so yeah, I'm like,
Panic.
yeah, you can think about it. Why did you call me? so so, and I don't blame them because it's scary,
Yeah.
we're living in a world that I have the patent and still people are stealing my
And
ideas.
you just talked about it. Here you are dealing with the knockoffs.
Right,
So where's that balance? When should
right.
you talk about it and when shouldn't you, in your opinion?
Exactly. So uh, I think you should have your wording already set before you start that conversation in the way that you can at least get close to it. Like talk about the field, talk about the background. How did you come up with? What kind of problem it's going to solve? And when it gets to how solve the problem, you don't have to be so down to the point. But
Exactly.
the person who's listening to you have to have some idea about what you're talking about. You can't say, I'm an inventor, I have an invention. Are you going to partner up with me? I'm like, no, I'm not.
Most people will say that, right?
Right. And I totally understand. It's kind of a scary, but you have to really kind of figure it out before you get into it. And the best thing is while you kind of set up the wordings and the things you want to explain or the things you don't want to explain, while you all have it planned in your mind, you also should file for patent as well. So you can have a patent filed. Of course, it's going to take years to get to the final patent, but just having the priority date will help you if it comes to the day that you have to argue the ownership of the patent. So just that filing date will help you in the future.
So John is asking if you're planning on staying in the health related products because obviously you have the crutches and the earwax removal. So what's your plan?
I love this field actually, and I already have other stuff in the pipeline that I like to have more time to work on them in this field. And there are other ideas that I have in a different field, like kitchen appliances. Uh, but one thing I learned is that if you jump to like different routes here and there, you have to start learning new things about that particular
That's
field.
right.
Right. So right now I'm more in healthcare products, so I already have that background and I kind of know the market and how things done. So if I just want to leave this aside and go to let's say kitchen appliances, then I'm gonna have to start learning new things and find new people. Right. So it's
And
two
go through
different.
that expensive learning curve all over again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all up to you how you want to manage your time and your efforts.
Yeah. So when I started, I was in hair accessories, and the reason all of them kept showing up in my brain with hair accessories is because that's the space, the universe that I wanted to stay within because it was low hanging fruit for me. And as soon as I stepped outside of it, I went from doing 3 products in 90 days that I got a licensing deal on, 3 different products in 90 days, to taking almost 3 years to license a CO2 powered airbrush. Now, of course, there was a lot more R&D that went into that, and there was a huge learning curve and a lot more work that went into finding the right new companies because it wasn't going to work with the companies I have. But that's the difference. And so people ask me all the time, is this a good idea? What's your opinion? I don't know. I mean, I could tell you my girl opinion because we all have one. But
Right.
I mean, it's not worth anything. I have to do the exact same research on every single product that anybody else has to do on every single product of their own.
Right.
So that's why we talk about that process. So your process, for starters, just to reiterate, is to start with evaluating the market, looking at the problem and asking people what that problem is like for them, then R&Ding and going back and forth with iterations on what that solution is going to be to best solve that problem that you fell in love with, and then getting your patent applied for, and then either choosing to go the path of venturing or licensing. Did I hear all of that right?
Yes,
Is
right.
there
And
anything that
if
you
you
would
have,
add?
yeah, if you can set a big budget aside, you also have other options too. But that doesn't happen for everyone. So, but if you have so much money to risk, you can just put together a little company and manufacture your own product. Of course, all are manufactured in China, but you have to have a team to kind of supervise it, and you have to hire people who are professional in that field. And it's a very very long and time consuming and expensive process. So if you do have that kind of money and time, then you can do that as well. But if you don't, then the licensing is a good route to go. And again, back to your point, you have to make sure your product is a good match for that kind of licensing company.
That direct response or whatever the company is that license. Okay, so here we go, Nami. Since we only have about a little less than 10 minutes left, I'm going to rapid fire questions for you. Okay.
Sure.
So Carol asks, can she submit her design to you for advice? It's in the medical field. I happen to know this, so you would be a valid opinion.
Sure. I get about dozen of invention every week, and most of them are in that field because that's how people got to know me. And I just need to warn you, I'll be very straightforward, and I tell you all the goods and bad about it.
And so, if people want to reach out to you, your email address is.
It's my name, Nami, Nami, at ndproducts.com.
There you go. Um, Next question. Do you need a medical or I happen to know the answer because I saw your commercial, but do you need some medical doctor's validation? Do you need it for when you're dealing with these types of devices?
It is always a plus to have a validation of a doctor. That's great to have, but depends on what kind of product you have. If it is OTC, if it is class one, class two, class three, it all depends where it's gonna fall into, what category. So no matter what category it is, doctor validation is great to have, but if it is like class one, probably not very necessary.
Ha- um, I think what Wendy's asking here, how did she know about you? I think is talking about the direct response company, which is kind of what we addressed. But Wendy, if that's not correct, please drop that question or just clarify for me in our chat. John is asking, did you get help in developing your product? And what kind of help did you get on the development? How much of this did you do yourself, my dear?
Yes, I did get help, of course. I did talk to a couple of people who had some background in engineering. And then back in the time, there was a place named Tech Shop right here in DC, Arlington area. And I was a member there. So I was there all the time and talking to people who could help. Of course, I didn't have so much fun at that time. I was trying to do it mostly by myself. So I would hire people on hourly basis just to solve the issues that I have and the technicality of it, and then use their 3D printers and all these facilities they had there. So I did it, but I did it very cost efficiently.
Smart.
Mhm.
Did you find that there were all of these landmines along the way that were very expensive? So in my case, I'm speaking for myself. I found from past experience, there are all these landmines that unknown unknowns. So instead of spending money just because I had it on the things that I wanted to do, I still treated it as if I had no money so that I had enough money for when those unknown unknowns popped up. I didn't just spend it because I had it. Do you find yourself kind of navigating that same path right now? Because you
Uh,
got the money now.
yeah, you definitely have to do something to come up with more question and then answer those questions, and it goes on and on and on until you get to where you want to be. To me, it's just like sculpting. If you want to sculpt something, you just play around with it, and you figure things out and fix it, and then go back a step back, have a look at it from distance, and get a different perspective. Sometimes you ask people what they think, and just keep working on it,
Right.
and just solve the problem.
Well, as with a background in design and now getting into the health field, do you see yourself staying focused or building a brand that someday maybe you could be licensing inventions from other people under the brand and selling into stores?
Yes, I could do that, but it's so much work that it requires me to expand my company. And, right now I have a small company and I'm kind of comfortable with it. But
It goes back to that peace of mind thing we were talking about earlier, right? And how you
right,
feel.
exactly, right.
I
But
know I don't want
if I decide to expand like a larger company and with with more investments, yeah, sure, I'll be happy to help.
Are you comfortable sharing just kind of a general range of how much it cost you on the development side of whether it was that product or just products in general to help people set their expectations of what they can anticipate if they decide to go down that route?
So your question is how much it costs from the
Product
ideation
develop-
to
Yeah, on the product development side, yeah, leading up to ultimately licensing the first product. I know manufacturing and venturing is a whole different question. I don't want to go down that path today.
right. Well, it could be very cost efficient, but I wouldn't think the whole process would cost any less than $2,000 to $3,000. This is when the product is very small. If the bigger the product, the more material that you need in the product. If you need metal, if you need welding, if you need like all those adds up. So in some cases, a prototype could be as expensive as $15,000.
Mm.
So it all depends what you have in mind, what is your invention about, and what kind of material you choose. And I think one of the thing that could help you with lowering the cost is talk.
Oh no, we were doing so well. We're here at the tail end. John, I hope that answered your question. In my case, I can say that I have licensed products that I literally only filed a patent application for and made my own working models at home for free. And then there are others that have cost me $5,000 to $10,000 in product development and that sort of thing. The very first one, the French Twister, we manufactured and sold into stores, and so I had a bigger investment in that before I ultimately licensed it. But it just depends. And I know you know my story, so I won't go into too much of that. I love you all and appreciate you. Now that we're running out here, I'm good. Nami's come back.
Okay, sorry, internet again.
It's okay. I was just going to wrap up and sharing a little bit about my story and what the cost, and
Sure.
because I mean, in your case, it cost 12 years, but obviously that's going to be dramatically reduced with all of the learnings that you have now. Do
Right.
you think that you will license any more of your inventions based on this experience that you've had in the past? Because I know now you're making and selling. And so as you venture and now you can compare the two, do you think you'd license again, or would you just stay the course of venturing?
Well, right now with my position, I rather to do it myself. But there might be. I'm open to all different, alternatives. And I think I learned it through the course of all this learning. I learned this one, that you always have to have an open mind. So never say never. If there is a good opportunity for licensing, I may do it.
And you had just cut out. And when you said that you were about to just tell us how to lower the cost. And that was quite a cliffhanger. So
Sure.
let's finish up with that.
In short words, I was trying to say is that once you figure out what is your invention, first you have to figure out what is your invention, because the first thing we come to our mind is this is what it is, but you don't know until you really make it by your hand. So make that not so perfect prototype, and then talk to an engineer who have some experience in manufacturing. That is very important, because that engineer, if they tell you, okay, you can eliminate this metal piece to a plastic piece, that's going to save you a lots of money and hassle, because you can do it with 3D easily.
Right. Now, I mean, this is such an ongoing debate. I have to ask this last question. I know we're at the hour, but I'm going to get in one last question for you, because it's such a big debate in the inventor community about whether or not you need a prototype to license. Would you say that the status that you were at, because you said you had a prototype and you had all of this research and data to support the innovation, do you think a prototype is really necessary for helping you get a licensed invention?
Definitely. I think prototype is a very, very first thing, because if you believe what you have in mind can come to reality, you have to prove it to yourself first. If you can prove it to yourself, then you can prove it to the others. And that's
Right.
the prototype.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much. I'm with you. If it's obvious on a piece of paper because it's, a new pen with an extra clip, okay, fine. That doesn't require a lot of evidence. But if it's truly novel, you're asking someone to believe that it will get the job done, then you got to prove it. So thank you. I'm with you. Thank you all so much. Nami, I appreciate you for being here. I'm very grateful. We'll have to have you back, because I know you
Thank
and I can
you.
talk many, many times. We'll talk about the crutches much more next time, I think, too. Go to Nami's website if you'd like to learn more. I'll pop up his email and there's his email, Nami at
ND, like N
Oh,
as a
I'm sorry,
Nancy.
I did. It's ND. I'm sorry, it's Nami, Nami at N as in Nancy D products.com. Sorry about that, folks. For those of you who dropped off and send the wrong person an email, they're going to be so mad at me. I apologize.
Don't
Typoed
worry.
that. And of course, you can always book a call with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you all next week. Thank you again, Nami.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.